Chosen family, what's up, man? USCJ here. It's the top of the morning. It's the top of the morning. Listen, I hope everybody is getting ready to get up, get out, and make some things happen this morning. Listen, we got a huge game this weekend, man, and it's gonna be straight up go time. It's gonna be on and popping. It's gonna be on and cracking. But real quickly, let me do this. I want to shout out Joe. Joe, I want to say happy birthday to you. Your son Choi. Yeah, that's right. Your son Choi reached out to me and told me today is your birthday. He also told me that you are one of the biggest Trojan alumni that always attend the games. You always are faithful to the cause, man. So look, I want to say and wish you a big happy birthday. Also, I want to say you and your son both. Let me say this: your son is a great son to reach out to me, and that just shows you how much he loves you, man. So I just really appreciate you guys' support. And look, man, it's always a big fight on for me, Joe. So happy birthday once again. Enjoy that, man. But look, Joe, we got a big time game, and look, I'm gonna give us a couple of reasons why I believe that USC will win this game. Hands down. Look, you guys already know some that might have seen this. I will be joined by former Washington running back Terry Holloman, and he's currently working for Fox 5 in Seattle as an analyst. He covers the Seahawks and he covers the Washington Huskies. He will be joining me tomorrow at 9 a.m. West Coast time, 12 p.m. East Coast time. We're going to talk about USC versus Washington. We're going to talk about some of the history and his experiences as well. So you guys can be expecting that. We're probably going to cover Washington all week. This game it's going to be one of those games that I mean, the national media, I don't see why College Game Day wouldn't be there, but, you know, the national media should cover this game, man. And I think when you look at these two quarterbacks, Michael Penix and Caleb Williams, and I'm just going to give you some stats right off the top. These two right now, statistically, are the two best quarterbacks in the country. And let me give you some of these numbers right now. When you look at Michael Penix's numbers right now, he's leading the country right now with the 2,945 yards. Caleb is right behind him at 2,646 yards. And then you got Colorado Sanders. You got him at 2,637. These are the top five. And then you got Jaden Daniels, 2,573. And then 2,565 will be for the Hawaii quarterback. And so these two guys are the two leading candidates for yardage right now. Heisman wise, I believe Michael Penix is leading all of them. But I'm going to tell you why. One of the reasons why I believe that USC will win this game. And the first reason is going to be this. Well, let me get into some of this real quick before I get into these reasons. Trojan family, Trojan faithful. When we look at this game, and when we look at everything that's going to be taking place, I want you guys to understand something here. I want you guys to understand that, yes, we've had the issues with the scheming, not the athletes, the scheme of the defense. We understand that. It's clear. But here's what we need to understand and we need to do. We need to support this team 100% fully. It's nothing we could do about it at this point. At this point, we are what we are. We got to deal with what we got to deal with. We have to play the way we got to play. So at this point, it's a risk. And I think Eric Gentry, he made a comment talking about, I think the defense, talking about the risk and reward aspect of it. Listen, we already know we're going to give up some points based on the way the scheme is. So at this point, you know, it's no point of us crying about the Alex Grinch thing because we already know. I'm in agreement with you. We all in agreement. The scheme needs to change. But at the end of the day, I'm about to support these guys. And here's the thing. If we're in a street fight back in the day, I'm saying back in the day, in the street fight back in the day, we got our guys, man. Look, man, you got what you got. If you outnumber, right? But are you going to go and retreat? That's the million-dollar question. Are you going to go and retreat, or are you going to stand up for what you know is yours? So look, man, we got to protect home, number one. And I believe one of the first reasons that USC will win this game is going to be home field advantage. Home field advantage. And yes, we lost against Utah, but I think when you look at what Washington is doing right now, away from home, I feel like USC absolutely has the advantage over Washington, and I think we got to take full advantage of that. That's going to be the first reason. The second reason I believe is Caleb Williams. If you match these quarterbacks up from an intellectual standpoint, from a IQ standpoint, and there's no knock on Michael Penix by any means necessary. Let me get that clear. But when you look at these two quarterbacks, and I think Caleb Williams, he is that guy. Even though he hadn't had the best of games, you know, every single game, I think Caleb Williams is going to be that X factor. But here's what I want us to understand about this game when we look at the quarterback position, matching up these guys, because the way this game is probably going to be promoted, it's going to be a game Caleb Williams against Michael Penix. Race for the Heisman type situation. I don't think this game needs to be approached like that, because I believe if we approach this game like that, Caleb Williams against Michael Penix, we lose. Bottom line, because what we don't want when we look at this game is we don't want Caleb overplaying or trying to outplay Michael Penix. We don't want that. That's not the way. I think we should do it the opposite way around. Even though we know he is the quarterback, the great quarterback, the best quarterback of these two. I think the way we got to approach this is that we look at it like this. If we open up the run game, which in Washington, when you look at their run defense, and when you look at their total defense, I believe right now, and I'm going to get into the preview this week, but it's going to be all week long. We're going to talk about this. But I believe if we expose the run defense from Washington, their overall total defense right now, it stands at 84th in the country. And so when we look at that defense, they're in the low. They're not far from us. We're in the 100s, 107 or something like that. But when you look at their total defense is not all that great. Yes, they beat Oregon, but at the end of the day, I think USC can really do some things if we establish the run. But we gotta establish the run, and I think in this game, the way we can beat this team is, of course, Marshawn Lloyd at least 25 carries. Austin Jones, hey, look, he can get his 7 carries. That's 32. That's 32 carries right there. That's 32 rushing yards. That means we can control the clock. And I believe once we establish those things, I believe everything else will open up to us. But the one thing that we can't do is make this a Caleb Williams versus Michael Penix Heisman Trophy thing, because that's a distraction. I believe that's an all-the-way distraction, and we can be lost in the sauce that way. But I believe the number 2 reason is the X factor is Caleb Williams from a football standpoint. All the guys in the draft media boards, they tell you that Caleb Williams still is that best guy. So I believe that that's how we're going to do the first reason that we're going to do it. But here's the other thing. When you look at these head-to-head matchups, and I'm going to pull these up real quick, USC and Washington, we got a little bit of a measuring stick. Now, each game is going to be different, right? Each game is different. I agree. But there's a measuring stick here. And when you look at some of the things with USC, head-to-head matchups, when we play Stanford, we beat them 56-10. You guys already know. We kind of just took the cruise control. We put it on cruise control in the second half against Stanford. And, we really didn't even have to allow them to score. But USC did take it out. We put 40 points on them in the first half. Now, when you look at the game against Washington versus Stanford, this is a very telling thing. And if we just go on matchup by matchup, Washington against Stanford last weekend was 42-33. Now, they scored late. It was Stanford's fault. Stanford had the game pretty much won. I watched that game in the fourth quarter. The receiver dropped the ball, and how did he drop that ball? He was just lost in Alfredo sauce. But here's the thing. That's a good thing. We want to beat a Washington team that's going to be undefeated. Hands down, I see a lot of people said, I hope Stanford win. I didn't want Stanford to win. I want USC to knock them off. I want USC to go ahead and destroy and ruin their whole thing, because at the end of the day, USC can still play in the Pac-12 championship. Knocking off Washington is the first step. That has to be the focus. We're going to focus on game by game, week by week. But what USC did 56-10 against Stanford, and you compare it against what Washington did 42-33, listen, hands down, I think USC, this should be encouraging to the USC faithful, number one. It should be encouraging to the USC players, the USC coaching staff. They can argue with it. People can argue whatever they want. USC's giving up defense, whatever. The points are going to be given up this game. It's going to be a shootout, hands down. We know that. I'm not going to say forget about defense, but I believe that the defense is going to do what they did last week and get the stops when they matter. I believe guys like Eric Gentry is going to get the stops when it matters. Guys like Jalen Smith, who came in there at the last play of the game, 2-point conversion, and was able to stop those guys. Look, we're going to get the stops when it matters. And I'm going to say this. Bear Alexander he was a difference maker when he came in the second half of the USC football game. You guys already know that. We were kind of somewhat lost in the sauce early on. Of course, Jaden Ott was running all over the place. But I think that when Barry Alexander came in there was a little bit of a tightening up. And, of course, you guys know, couple that with Eric Gentry. And I did see a couple of holes on Jamil Muhammad and Tackett Curtis, some things, man. So, look, man, we hoping this is going to be a clean game. But I believe with all my heart the defense is going to make the stops when it's most needed. And I think when you look at this first game, Stanford against Washington and Stanford against USC, that's a telling sign. Number three, Washington against Arizona State last week. That was an extremely close game. That was a 7-15 game. You know, I mean, when you look at the trend right now, and you look at it for Washington, it's like it's these past 3 weeks. We could say these past 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, they have been kind of somewhat struggling. Now, if USC, I want you guys to think about this. Think about how we beat Stanford. And you talked about we talked about the defense, but you didn't see the national media, ridicule or criticize Washington. And we beat Stanford by way more. You don't see, but Washington doesn't move down in the polls. You see where they're still ranked right now. They're still in the top 10. But when they struggle with Stanford and barely beat them in the fourth quarter, why is it that they don't move down? I don't get that. Why is it when you look at Arizona State versus Washington? Washington barely beat them 7-15. But look what USC did to them, 42-28. But we continue to move down in the polls. Is that a double standard or is that a double standard? We moved down in the polls and we blew these teams out. We blew out Arizona State. We blew out Stanford. Why is it that we continue to move down over a team like Washington, and Washington still gets the credibility? That just shows you the media bias. That shows you that they're lost in the sauce and that they absolutely don't like USC and the things that they represent. That's a great way to show you guys clearly. It doesn't make any kind of sense. These teams struggled against the same teams that USC beat, but they get all the love. Now, the other thing is, so we got Arizona State that they struggle with. They got Stanford that they struggle with. And then look at Arizona when they played Arizona. Arizona and Washington, 31-24. I mean, that's not, they won by 7. They won by 7 against Arizona. Now, you guys already know. I know that we went overtime. We went triple overtime with Arizona. But at the end of the day, Washington had problems with them as well. But Washington did worse against the other teams that we played and we blew out. So this right here is a clear indication. Let me tell you, Trojan Faithful, don't get it in your mind. I need you guys to speak life to your team right now. Speak life to our players right now, because at the end of the day, like I said, Washington is no different from USC right now. USC has the better players. USC has the better team. We just need the coaches to coach it the right way in order for us to successfully win this game. Don't outthink ourselves. Don't overdo it. Play within our own selves. Let the running game open up the passing game, and I believe that USC will get the victory over the University of Washington, man. Look, you guys can hit me in the comment section. You guys can tell me if you agree with that, man. Look, I'm about to be out of here, man, but this is a clear sign that USC will win this game this weekend. You guys are hearing it from me first, man. So look, it's straight up go time. It's on and popping. It's on and cracking. USCJ is continue to be on the case with this thing. Look, I don't want to hear none of the fire grant. Look, we like I said, we agree, we understand. Listen, there's nothing we can do about it now. Get the back of your team and make sure we support them to the fullest, man. Look, I'm out of here. Until later on, everybody stay blessed. Fight on, fight on, fight on.